She coaches the aerobatic team and is a lecturer at MSU Denver. She's been teaching aerobatics for
30 years?
40 years.
30. 50.
Not as long as I have.
That's good.
So, enough said. Dagmar.
Hi, everybody. I know why you are here, because it's shady and cool. Welcome. Thanks for all being here. Who of you is not an aerobatic pilot? Good, because this, what I'm going to present, is not necessarily only for aerobatic pilots. It's aerodynamics derived from aerobatics applied to normal flying too, which explains it very well. So let me see. Let me start with this here. Of course, here it is. So there is a lift equation, and I'm just trying to be funny because we are not going to go into this. I'm not an aerodynamics person so much. I like to fly airplanes and stay safe. So there is a much easier lift equation. If you take all these, like wing area, density, altitude, wing area is a given. If you fly an airplane, it has a certain wing area. You can't change that. The density on that day is the same. So what you can change, the big dogs in, now I switch this, and let me just go here. I'll do my own drawing. I have noticed when I do PowerPoints, people go to sleep, especially here in the shade. So try to not put you to sleep. Perfect. All right, here we go. Let me just get organized. The big dogs in lift creation is really airspeed and angle of attack. So let's say lift equals airspeed plus angle of attack. And if you increase one, you reduce the other. So let's give this some simple numbers. And these are not in any way true to any formula, but just to make it simple, let's call lift 10. Or it would be, in a way, let's say you fly an airplane for 2,500 pounds, a Cessna, full gross Cessna, 2,500 pounds. In order to keep that at level flight suspended, you need to create lift for 2,500 pounds. So that would be that number, but we'll call it 10. It's easier to compute. So you can make the 10 out of 5 plus 5, of course. That's kind of medium angle of attack, medium airspeed. You can also say 8 plus 2. Okay? So you have a higher airspeed, a smaller angle of attack. Or you can say 2 plus 8. Okay? So the slower you go, the higher of an angle of attack you need, and vice versa. When does the airplane stall? You exceed the critical angle of attack. So let's call that the number 8. This is helpful for becoming flight instructors. Anybody here who wants to become a CFI? Good. There's always this explanation. What does the stall speed do if your center of gravity goes forward or back, or the weight increases, and maneuvering speed and all that good stuff? This is a very simple explanation here. Just remember this simple formula. So let's say 8 is the critical angle of attack. So if you increase your weight, instead of 10, make it 12. There we go. You cannot increase this anymore, because then it'll stall. So you have to increase the airspeed. So there would be 10 plus, what am I doing? 4. So your critical angle of attack, once you get to that, it stalls. If you want to still, and that's your stall, at that moment. If you want to fly at higher speed, you need to, or at a higher weight, you need to increase the speed for the stall. So as weight goes up, your speed goes up, your stall speed. Let me go here to a different color. I'd like to go through stall speed a little bit. What changes stall speed? If you go get a private, and I'm teaching these private classes at MSU Denver, I'm a lecturer there too. I do this fundamentals of aviation, and it's a textbook that big in the meantime. Mine, when I learned to fly, was only that much, but now they're very big. And the factors for increase in stall speed or decrease, I mean, they come with temperature, density, altitude, of course, weight, center of gravity. And we just talked about the weight. As you increase the weight, the stall speed goes up. How do you increase the weight? You take your mother-in-law in the back and fill up the fuel. But this is really only 10% or something like that. The real increase in weight is a load factor, G-force. You pull 2 Gs, it weighs double. 4 Gs, it weighs 4 times as much. 10 Gs, 10 times as much. These extras down there can all pull 10 Gs. You're getting really heavy in this airplane when you pull 10 Gs. So let's talk about this a little bit. And I like to start out with, and this is where the aerobatics come in, with a looping. And the looping, that should look like that. Yeah, pretty close. Different color. And I'll use these numbers because I'm used to them, but for the pits, so the decathlon, for the decathlon it's fast, for the pits it's not so fast. 160 to start the loop. That's your speed to start that loop. You need to have a certain speed to bring it up and over. As you go up that loop, what happens to the airspeed? It goes down. It's not a rocket. So 140, 120, 100, 80, 60, make it 45 over the top. Now you're at 45 on the top, go downhill, you become faster again. It's the same thing on the way down. You're doing 100 in that loop when the plane points straight down at the ground. You're doing 100. 120, 140, okay? So you go up over the top and back down, and the speed is constantly changing. Now let's go to the lift, or not the lift formula, the stall speed formula. There is actually a formula that determines the actual stall speed at a certain G load. It's relating to G load. If you look at your airspeed indicator, you have a green arc and a white arc. Let's forget about that white arc for a minute. The bottom of the green arc is called VS1. What does that stand for? 1G. It's at 1G. Well, it's the configuration for a departure stall. I think it's without the flaps, but it is 1G. So VS1, I always have to tap my pen to change from eraser to, it says down here. Yeah. So VS1 in my pits is about 60, 58, but make it around 60. And if you fly any RV, Cessnas, they all gravitate 55 to 60, about that speed. So let's call it 60. VS1 equals 60. How do you come up with that 60? I mean, imagine you build an airplane. Make it yourself. It's a completely new design. Nobody has papers for that. No numbers. How do you determine VS1? Because somebody from the FAA will come and say you need to write all this down so we can certify that. You could just go up high, fly level, pull the power, and flare it level altitude. That is 1g. Level altitude, like we are all sitting here at 1g and walking sideways 1g. You flare it, same altitude. At some point it stalls. That would be your 1g stall speed. Okay? And that's VS1. Now VS actual, the actual stall speed, let's call this actual, equals VS1 times multiplied by the square root of the load factor, or the g-force. That's the formula for the actual stall speed you will stall at under different g conditions. So let's, for the sake of the formula, at 1g, establish that, just to make a mathematical formula. And this will not go heavy into math, don't worry. So in our pits, we said, or any Cessna, let's round this number to 60. VS1 is 60. And you would plug in the VS1 of your airplane. If you don't remember it, just look at your airspeed indicator, bottom of the green arc. There it is. Put it here and multiply it at 1g, it would be the square root of 1, which is still very simple. That's 1, right? 1 times 60 is 60. So VS actual would be 60. At 1g, you cannot fly a loop. For that loop, you need to go up. You need to pull a little. To make it a nice pull up and get it over, you need to pull about 4 Gs to also make it a round loop. If you pull only 2 Gs, if you take somebody for a ride, has never done aerobatics, is not even a pilot, you don't really want to pull 4 Gs maybe the first time. Do 2. And your loop will look something like this. You pull up very gently, it goes up, it goes up, it goes up, it runs out of airspeed. You finagle it over the top, come back down, come like this. From the inside, it looks like a loop. It's very pleasant to fly. In competition, that's a 1 out of 10. So you need to pull a little more. Let's play with 4 Gs. 4 Gs is a magic number for a loop. It's also a good square number and easy to compute. So the formula would be VS1, which is 60, multiplied by the square root of 4, which is what? 2. 2 times 60 is 120. You see how quickly that goes up, that stall speed? Just like that, doubles already. Who has pulled 2 Gs already? Everybody. 2 Gs is nothing. You can't even feel it. And it doubles your stall speed. 4 Gs. That's 4 Gs. Sorry. We get to the 2 Gs. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's play with these airplanes out there. I said 10 Gs, they're certified to 10. You can pull 9 Gs, easy. So 60 times square root of 9 is 3. 3 times 60 is 180. These are all of a sudden dimensions. If you fly a Cessna, you really never play with this realm of stall speeds, but they're there. And they will stall. If you fly one of those and you want to pull 9 Gs and you are slower than 180, it will stall. It will just buff it and stall. It's called an accelerated stall. If you pull hard and it stalls because you are too slow for whatever you want to pull. Let's go back to the loop. We said VS1 is 60. How can we fly 45 over the top? And it still flies, doesn't stall. That's 1G, thank you. Let's make it a half G. Oh, come here. So 60 times square root of 0.5 is what? Any engineers here? Todd, are you here? 7. Good, thank you. Because Todd was giving me a lecture on aerodynamics on the way over, and I thought, I'll ask you that question. So 60 times 0.7 is what? 42. So pull less than 1G, relax, and the stall speed comes down. Oh, here we go, 42. 0G. Who has ever floated their mother-in-law? Okay. 60 times square root of 0. 0. So the whole thing is 0. If you don't pull or push, the airplane doesn't stall. It just flies because the relative wind goes at equal over the top and over the bottom of the wing. And you do not stall. If you don't pull, if you fly 0Gs, it will not stall. The less you pull, the lower the stall speed, down to no stall speed. I want to talk about the 2Gs. I went ahead of myself up there and I asked who has all pulled 2Gs already. It's actually a critical number because of who has pulled 2Gs. Think of flying at low level. Well, let me do the formula first and then we'll talk. Square root of 2 is what? 1.4. 1.4. That's 40% more. 1.4 times 60 is what? 84. When you pull 2Gs, the airplane stalls at 84. That's not a problem if you are up at 6,000 feet above the ground. But where do we fly slow and low? Traffic pattern, traffic pattern. And we learn as students, you make an orderly pattern on the downwind, you're 1,000 feet off the ground, you reduce your speed in the Cessna, I think I remember 90. Then you turn base, you go down to 80. Then you turn final and you fly at 70 or 65 or even 60. So you fly on the base. Let's say you fly on the base, you're below 1,000 feet. And you overshoot the final. There's a tailwind, or you overshoot the final for some reason. So you bank and yank, and you are immediately, how fast are you on that base? 80? So I'm just trying to say this 2G is dangerous stuff if you are low and slow. Watch it on the base to find whenever you are low and slow, watch it because a little bit of pull will stall the airplane. Upwind, crosswind is the same. We have this airport, I'm from Colorado, from Denver. There's this airport north of Denver called Erie. Any Coloradans here? I see some team kids over there. Thanks for being here. Erie had its shares of accidents, 3 of them, and they were either upwind to crosswind, stall spin, right there. Or one of them was on a go-around. There was opposing traffic. There was a final on one way and a final on the other, and one plane did a go-around. They were already set up for the flare. They were slow, very slow. They pushed in the power, they pulled up and over, and they went upside down and were all dead. There were 6 people in this plane. It was a bigger plane. So it's this area where you're very slow that's dangerous. Okay. Let me quickly see what's next in my... Because I always forget things if I don't stick to my PowerPoint, but I don't want to do the PowerPoint. So, as a summary of this, the more you pull, the higher the airspeed, your airplane will stall it. The heavier you are, the higher the airspeed, you will stall it. But the big dog in heaviness is the G-force. 2Gs, 4Gs in normal flying, we usually fly 4Gs. Well, you can pull it in a little penny. Let's look at the loop again here. In a looping, what do you think how many feet you go up and down? 1,000 feet? It's pretty good. So 1,000 feet in a small airplane like we fly. Any P-51 pilots here? They use more. They go up and down 5,000 feet. But for what we would use, 1,000 feet. If you look at the top speed, 45, and the bottom speed, so you go up, you reduce the speed to 45, then you come down the hill and you increase the speed again to 160. How much speed do you pick up on the way down in that half loop down? 115. 115. So you're flying along here. And I have this all on my PowerPoint with pictures, but I'll just explain it because it is always complicated to switch over. We have in Denver the Bravo airspace on Denver International, and there's a runway going out north-south. It's 16,000 feet long, 16,000 feet. We have high density altitudes. Denver is 5,500, the international airport elevation. So if it's hot on a hot day, you have no performance there. Then outside the initial shelf that goes down to the ground, that's about 5 miles. There's the next shelf, it's 1,000 feet off the ground, 1,200 maybe, less than 1,200. And there's a little airport community there called Van Air. And they have a pattern of 800, 900 feet to stay under that Bravo shelf. And it's maybe 5-6 miles out from the runway of Denver. And I've seen these, I've been on them. I'm German. And we Germans come to the United States. I was one of them 40 years ago. And we find the great American outlet malls. It doesn't exist in Germany. So the Germans come to Denver or anywhere they go to the United States on a 747. Not anymore, since COVID, not anymore, but in Denver, it was that 747, my favorite airplane. Frankfurt, Denver, nonstop, beautiful. And the Germans come off that plane and they go to Castle Rock Outlet Mall and they say, oh my God, look at all this stuff we can buy. And they buy and buy and buy. They come with one suitcase and they have to buy 3 more suitcases to fill all this stuff in there, all of them. So when they come back to the plane to fly back home, this plane is so full and so heavy. It's maxed out. Hot day, July, 95 degrees, 100 degrees, it happens in Denver. And the 747 crawls out, it takes, and that's why the runway is 16,000 feet long, that these things can take off with all these Germans on board in their suitcases. I'm not kidding, it's true. So it crawls out, it finally lifts off, and I've been on them. I see these markers, 8,000, 9,000, it keeps, and it's still accelerating. And it lifts off and the runway is at the end. And it kind of creeps out at 150 feet per minute. And it just barely clears into that upper shelf 1,000 feet, 5 miles down the road. So let's say it's 1,000 feet off the ground, up there, and you come and you want to land at your house at this airport, and you are in the traffic pattern with a Cessna. You're coming in from the outside. What's your speed in a Cessna? 100? 100? Okay, you're coming, you're doing 100. You're doing 100 here. This is your little airplane. Here's the propeller. Kind of like this. You're doing 100. And you get hit by, when that 747 just scrapes your roof, it's called wake turbulence. And it does exist. Is anybody here who has been turned upside down by wake turbulence? Me neither. We all hear about it, but years ago there was a Challenger jet that got in a wake turbulence from an Emirates 380, Airbus 380. I have it all on my PowerPoint with pictures to prove it. It did happen. It got rolled around 5 times. It was able to land, but they totaled the airplane, was crashed. Somehow it came apart. Things came apart. They were able to land. So wake turbulence is a factor. It's a risk. And when you are flying close to a major airport where heavy airplanes go out, under these shelves, for example, you can be hit by one. So you get what? Rolled upside down. Okay, what is the reflex of somebody who has never done aerobatics? Pull. Yeah, you see the ground because the airplane rolls upside down and it goes already nose down a little bit. They're not trimmed for flying right side up. So it goes down. And you pull and you do a half loop down in a Cessna. And we said we add how much? 115. And at Van Air, we are 800 feet off the ground, pattern altitude. And we come down 1,000 feet, right? So what is 100 plus 115? 215. Does anybody know the red line of a 172? Come on, coming flight instructors back there. Pardon? 156? Thank you. Thank you. 156 is the red line. That should be right here. Okay. 100 plus 115 would be 215. 215. But that's, if you, let's say you are higher, you'd pull the wings off or do some damage to it. And if you are not high enough, you'll hit the ground right here. So this is where the aerobatics come in for this normal flying. Be aware when you go upside down and you pull through, you lose at least 1,000 feet and you add at least 115. The thing with the half loop is you fly a half loop before, you get really slow, and then you can add that speed again. There is something called a split S, where you fly normal, you roll upside down, you pull through, but you need to be slow. You do not do this out of a speed higher that does not accommodate your addition in airspeed on the way down. So if you ever get rolled around, remember to not pull through, to roll with the roll, because they say in the great turbulence you cannot roll against. You have to roll with it. Okay. Let's talk about, so we got the stalls. The stall is, the speed is highly depending on G-force. Keep that in mind. The more you pull, the higher your stall speed is. When you get your commercial, they want to see your commercial license. Anyone here who gets a commercial license soon? There's this accelerated stall you have to demonstrate. And they do that by slowing you down to, I think, about 80, 90, and then you go into a bank and you maintain altitude. I think it's a 60-degree bank. How many Gs do you need to maintain 60 degrees in a bank? 2. Yeah. And the reason why we need to pull as we bank, if we don't lose altitude, if you want to maintain altitude, you redirect that vertical lift to the side, and then you need to pull more to create more vertical lift again. So the more you bank, the more you need to pull to maintain altitude. And that's how you get in this accelerated stall with 2 Gs only, and the formula is right here. Because if you fly 80 and you pull 2 Gs to maintain altitude, you'll stall. But you can do this. Go in a bank, fly the airplane in a bank, decelerate down to 80 or so, and just jerk back. It'll stall. You don't even have to bank it. You can just fly level. Just fly a little slower, jerk back, and stall. I'm saying fly a little slower. Let's go into maneuvering speed while we are at it. What is maneuvering speed? Maneuvering speed. Correct. You can yank and bang the airplane and cannot damage it. Why can you not damage it? It stalls. Yeah. See it as a reversal of this formula because there are structural limitations. What is the structural limit on a Cessna, for example? Standard category. 3.8. 3.8 and minus 1.5. But the positive number is 3.8 plus 3.8 G's. That's very close to 4. Let's round it up to 4. And we have that right here. So if you pull 4 G's, the airplane stalls at 120. If you pull a little less than 4, 3.8 is the structural limit, deduct some from the 120. So if you look into your POH, you will find the maneuvering speed hovering around this number here. So if you don't know your maneuvering speed, it's easy to forget. I don't know my maneuvering speed either. There are different values for different weights, but they hover around this number. So remember the square root of 4 is 2. So just multiply your VS1, the bottom of the green arc, by 2 and deduct 10%. And you are pretty much right there what maneuvering speed is. And that's where the airplane will stall when you reach those the 4 Gs or the 3.8 Gs. And you cannot pull more Gs because it will stall. So the wings will not come off. If you fly faster than that, if you fly 180, this one, you can pull more Gs. This one here. If you're flying 180 in Cirrus or something, and you get in a turbulence, clear air turbulence, you don't see, or you are brave enough to fly in a thunderstorm, and it shakes the airplane and there are G-forces of up to 9 on the wing, it will not stall if you are too fast, and it will exceed the structural limit. That's what maneuvering speed is, and you can derive that from this formula. Okay. So maneuvering speed, VS1 times square root of 4 is 2 times 2 minus 10%. That's the dumbed down formula, but it works. Okay. Who has an airplane with a left turning propeller here? What do you fly?
Steady.
So what kind of an engine is that?
It's a Rotax.
It's a Rotax, okay. Yeah. So for you, this will be now the other way around, what I'm going to talk about. Most airplanes here in the States with Lycomings, Continentals, and so forth have a right turning propeller. And there are all sorts of forces that come with that. Like, for example, who can name one? P factor. Okay, let's call this here yawing / turning forces with right turning propellers. And you said P factor.
So we'll let it slide this time. Come on up to the Coast Guard helicopter.
What is, if you take a person from the street, go to the, anywhere, not here at an airport, and explain P factor, how would you do that? Well, you're laughing. It's actually not easy. It's not easy at all. I use this bicycle. I use this for gyroscopic precession, really, but it works for P factor too. Think of a helicopter. The helicopter, let's say, has a rotor on the top and it turns. Okay? Turns this way. There's one blade that goes forward and one blade goes back. And now how do you make that? So you lift it off, it's now hovering. How do you go forward? You tilt it. So the lift vector goes out extending from this pole. You tilt it forward like this. If you watch them, they do that. You can see that. Now the lift is divided into vertical component and horizontal component. It moves forward. Now you can see, and now it's going forward, let's say at 10. At 10 knots, or I have a 10 knot wind. Let's say we have a wind from there, from the window, at 10 knots, and we are going forward now at 50. Okay? So that blade here, facing you, goes forward. What is the relative wind over that blade? If you have a 10 knot headwind, 60. The one that goes back here goes out of the wind. What's that relative wind? 40. So you have 60 and 40. That means you have more relative wind on the forward moving blade than on the rear moving blade. It should roll, wouldn't you think? Makes more lift. Why do they not roll? Swash plate? Correct. Are you a helicopter pilot? Yeah. Good, excellent. So this scary part was these helicopters. There are swash plates in there, and these plates do constantly this and that. So on the way forward, where it has more relative wind, it flattens the relative, the angle of attack. When it comes around here, it steepens the angle of attack. Am I doing right? Perfect. So these things, and you cannot watch these plates, they disappear, it's a blur, they're very fast. So they do this all the time. Watch it with the helicopters, make sure you do a good pre-flight, make sure all these nuts and bolts are on, because this is constantly moving all the time. So it doesn't roll. Airplanes don't have swash plates. They have propellers. Let's think of a fixed pitch propeller. Nothing moves. So as soon as you lift off and move it forward, think of Osprey. Anybody seen an Osprey? They lift off like this and then they go forward with the propellers and they fly away like that. But the system is the same. There is one forward moving blade, one rear moving blade. And then they tilt it, and this is still a forward moving blade and a rearward moving blade, but they call it now the descending blade and the ascending blade. But as long as you have an angle of attack, call it the propeller axis. This here would be the crankshaft, the extension out of the crankshaft. If there is an angle between that extension of the crankshaft and the relative wind, you have P factor. The greater the angle, the more P factor. Think of slow flight, level flight, slow flight. The slower you become, the more of an angle of attack you have, the more P factor you get. If you're completely aligned with your crankshaft and the relative wind in aerobatics, that would be vertical flight, straight up. You make no lift on either side of the airplane. You're going perfectly vertical, and the relative wind is straight coming against your extension of the crankshaft, if you want. So in a vertical flight configuration, there's no more P factor. P factor exists only when you have an angle of attack. The higher the angle of attack, the more P factor. I'm assuming now full power setting. And with high angle of attack, let's say you fly slow, think slow flight, you're slower. So the airplane wants to pull to the left because you make more lift on that. Yes?
Does that mean it pulls the other way if you're inverted?
Well, I'll get to that. Give me a second. Yeah. I'm just trying to go through all these forces because they are important, and they are more important, especially in aerobatics, but they can catch you in normal flight too, these forces. So P factor, let's say, needs angle of attack. Lots of it. The more you have, the more the P factor.
Okay, I hope you're enjoying
Number 2, what else comes to mind?
for another AirVenture plane talk.
Call it prop wash. I don't know if anybody said prop wash. Let's call it prop wash. Let's stay with the propeller. Prop wash.
Go to eaa.org/live. That's eaa.org/live. All the interviews are getting uploaded there on demand. And check out all the great interviews we've had this week and all the ones we're about to have in the future. So,
Yeah, we have time.
Down, if you can hear my boys, come on up to the
Here's an airplane,
Boy Plaza. We're standing right here.
good old Cessna,
I'm gonna get it wrong. Dagmar?
propeller.
Okay, so with Lieutenant Durfee, who's gonna tell us all about the Jayhawk.
We have wind. We have a propeller slipstream. Let's say you're flying really fast.
Let's talk about
You have the slipstream coming around. It pushes on the tail from left to right. Pushes your tail over to the right and the nose to the left. So these airplanes should always yaw to the left when you're flying fast. But you can trim them for level flight and take your hands off and flies perfectly straight. Why does it not turn left? Rudder trim. Rudder trim. But this was the rudder trim. And look at the Cessna. They are fixed. You cannot change them from inside the cabin. It's a piece of metal that's bolted on there. It's pre-bent. The rudder trim is what it is, and it's calculated, it's calibrated for the speed we fly the most with, which is cruise speed. So when you fly cruise speed, the airplane flies straight. When you fly slower than cruise speed, the airplane flies different, and when you fly faster than cruise speed, it flies different too. So let's make it slower than cruise speed. You know, let's say you're going vertical, hammerhead, and all of a sudden you're having a ton of slipstream coming up here. I got little airplanes here. And I got a slinky. So you're flying a hammerhead, up you go, you get slower, and in the beginning you're fast, so your slinky, that's the propeller slipstream, is very pulled apart. Now you become slower and slower, and your slinky compresses, your propeller slipstream compresses, and this airplane gets pushed on the tail from left to right, and it wants to go this way. If you pull an aerobatic airplane, don't do it with a Cessna, vertical, and do nothing else. Get your feet off the rudders, you won't go very far before it starts going over like this. So in order to fly a nice hammerhead up to the point where it doesn't go forward anymore, you need to add right rudder. More right rudder, the slower you become. And that's slipstream. It has nothing to do with P factor, different force. P factor needs angle of attack, slipstream doesn't. Slipstream just gets more as you become slower at full power. If you go faster, and they say you descend down toward the airport and you become faster, the airplane actually yaws a little to the right. If anybody pays attention, you need a little left rudder. So prop wash, P factor needs right rudder. Prop wash needs right rudder as you get slower. What else is there? Torque. What's torque? It's a rotation. Think of these little airplanes, toy airplanes with a rubber band on the belly. You spin up the propeller, then you let go of the propeller, and it goes the other way. If you would, so let's say you spin up the propeller to the left, then you let go of the propeller, and it goes to the right, like the propeller would do. If you now grab the propeller and let go of the airplane, which way does the airplane go? Goes to the left. It's the counter force, and it's called torque. So as we have full power in our airplanes, they should roll left, shouldn't they? Why don't they? Design. They either have aileron trims, or most of them, I've been told, have a higher angle of incidence on the left wing, so it makes more lift on the left wing than on the right wing, so they don't roll. But that again is a design factor for a certain speed called cruise speed. They fly level at cruise without an autopilot even. If you get slower than cruise, they start rolling left. There is a figure in air shows, you will see that if you pay attention. They go up and they usually roll left. Airplane goes up, it comes to doesn't go up vertically anymore, it's still rolling, and then it comes back. And it's still rolling. It would do that also if you were to roll right. If you go up, you roll right. There is this point, because it's the ailerons that deflect that produce more lift on one wing than the other. If you don't have enough airspeed anymore, you will not produce this lift on the wings anymore. Then it will stop the right roll and will go to the left, because that's torque. As soon as you are slow enough to not have the aerodynamic force of the ailerons anymore, they will roll to the left. They all do. A Cessna will do that too. And lastly, there's gyroscopic precession. What's that? Where's my wheel? It's that force that if you have a spinning object, think propeller, and you apply a force on that spinning object. Let's say I apply a force here and push forward. The counter force is 90 degrees into the direction, in the same direction as the initially applied force. That's how it's in the textbook. It's another one you should explain to somebody downtown somewhere who is not a pilot or somewhere. So you spin, the propeller spins to the right, you apply a force this way, and the counter force would be that way. So if you push down, go forward, it turns left. And that is one of the major forces. So we can demonstrate it here. You push down, and I'm not doing this. It's doing it by itself. Pull up, it goes this way. Push down, it goes that way. That's a good demonstrator. So we have four forces that all kind of turn to the left. With P factor when you're slow, high angle of attack. You have prop wash when you're slow. You have torque when you're slow. Think, who flies all a tail wheel? Oh, good, excellent. You're sitting on the runway, tower says cleared for takeoff, you're coming from a standstill, and you have a 500 horsepower engine in the front. Jam the power in. So the airplane sits like this, right? You have P factor, it wants to turn left. You have, not precession, you have prop wash, it wants to turn left. The torque wants to roll you. And now you accelerate a little and push forward to bring the tail up. So it requires an enormous amount of right rudder to keep the airplane straight. The ones who haven't done it yet, count on it. You just need it. Otherwise, it will drive into the ditch. I almost drove into the ditch once. I fly a Pitts, little Pitts. I'm going on the runway. It was runway 10 for you back there who know where that is. And Joe Thibodeau comes up with his golf cart and waves at me. And I thought, oh, cool. So I had full power in there. What did I do? I had the stick in the right hand, and I look and I wave at him, and I did this. And I almost ended up outside the runway. That's how fast it was. So you gotta watch it with these airplanes. They come off the runway so quickly. It's a safety factor. Let's say you stall. You have full power. It's the typical thing the examiners do to you on a check ride. They drop a pin, they ask you to pick up the pin, and you are pulling the nose up. The airplane stalls. So first of all, you get P factor, it becomes slower. You pull the nose up. P factor, prop wash, torque, and then it stalls. When it stalls, the nose drops. Here it goes. Okay? So if you do nothing with the feet, it will 99 out of 100 times, if you don't force it into the right side, it will go left. Okay? It goes left. And now, if you don't pull the power, you have P factor, you have prop wash, you have torque. It keeps going, especially that prop wash in the spin. It'll just kick it around. And the gyroscopic precession, I'm not holding this up, it's holding itself up. Because we are constantly changing the axis on this spinning object. So in a spin at full power, against the rotation of the propeller in a left spin, it pulls the nose up, makes the spin flat. Okay? As soon as you pull the power, down goes the nose. So this is really what I wanted to get at with these four forces. That if you get in a spin, if you don't pull the power, and we do that in spin training, and I like to use the Pitts because the Pitts is such an honest and super spin airplane, spin teaching airplane, because it doesn't recover if you don't do it right. It just won't come out. These extras, you just fly out. Don't need to pull the power. They're, I think, designed for air shows, so you do these tumbles and all this good stuff, and it flies right out. Pitts won't come out. I can vouch for that, because I have one. So you spin it, and it will not stop. Okay? You need to pull the power in a spin to get out of the spin. So remember, when you push, it goes to the left. When you pull, it goes to the right. But the pull, when it goes to the right, is counteracted by the three other forces, like torque, prop wash, and p-factor, if you have them. So the pull to the right is not as bad pronounced as the push to the left. In a hammerhead, you go up vertical. Now you kick it to the left. Kick it to the left with the rudder. The airplane goes on the back because of gyroscopic precession. Whenever you change the axis of the propeller, it has a reaction to it. So when you push, it goes left. When you pull, it goes right. When you kick left, it goes on the back. When you push forward, it changes too. It goes to the left, actually. So in aerobatics, we have figures like the Humpty Bump, where you go vertical up, get really slow, and then you are supposed to push over, push hard, and come out in same heading. When you're really slow already here, you have there's no p-factor because you're vertical, but you have prop wash, you have torque, so it wants to start rolling. Now you're pushing and it wants to go to the left. And as you push, you don't really see your heading anymore. You see nothing, you see only the sky. And by the time you make it around, you might have changed 90 degrees in your heading. Any aerobatic competition pilots here? Ah, good, so you know that. If you don't push in a Humpty Pump, and then you are 90 degrees off, and you know, in competition, your heart usually, when the chief judge tells you the box is yours, have a good flight, the brain seems to depart the skull. And it hides under these, I always say, it goes inside the parachute somewhere, or under your seat or so. It's not in the skull anymore. And so we change, it has happened to me once, so pull up vertical, push over, the airplane did that. And then I kept flying everything 90 degrees because the box is square, there are markers, they look square. I thought, oh, good, I'm in the box. And everything after that figure you change the direction to, if it's not flown in the direction as it says on your sequence card, is a 0. So you come back down with like 10 zeros or so. That's, yeah. So you need to know these forces and counteract them. Counteract is almost too late. You need to know they're there and apply corrective action before it happens. What happened to this one plane in Erie on that go-around? They were slow. They saw another plane coming from the other side. They applied full power. They pulled up. Well, they stalled too. But when you stall at full power, it rolled them upside down. It rolled them upside down. Torque took over, and then prop wash. It was just a bad combination. They went upside down like that. So the stall speed formula plus these forces at slow speeds are something to keep in mind for safe flying. The question to upside down flying. Do we have time? Yeah, we have time. I brought a little airplane. Where did it go? Here. And I brought Barbie dolls. Has nothing to do with the Barbie movie, but that was convenient. So There is actually another force that is an adverse yawing force. I mean, P factor, prop wash, torque, these are all adverse forces. There's one more for which you don't need a propeller, actually. Any glider pilots here? What force, what's called an adverse yaw?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sure.
Adverse yaw. When you roll, when you
Rolling, you got, tell the rudder what to do.
get it, exactly. And the rolling has to do with deflecting the ailerons. When you roll left, let's say, your right aileron goes down. I don't want to bore you with more drawings. But the angle of attack increases on the wing that rises, and therefore you make more lift because the speed is the same. And the aileron on the descending wing goes up, that angle of attack decreases. So you make more lift on the wing that's rising, that's why it's rising, on the descending aileron. Where you make more lift, you make more drag. And that is because lift is under pressure. You have a big vacuum, an under pressure system on top of that wing. And this under pressure system sucks molecules in to equalize itself with the surrounding air. It gets the molecules from the top, of course, that lifts the airplane up. But it also tries to bring molecules from underneath the wing to the top. Now, through the front, the airplane is flying forward, it cuts it right off. The backside is impractical too. The airplane has departed by the time these molecules make it around. But over the wingtips, they come around the wingtips and they create this wingtip vortice. That's what the wingtip vortice is. It's the molecules that come from underneath the wing on top of the wing, and they make this rotation. That's why airplanes have winglets to cut this off, okay? So if you roll the airplane or bend the airplane, you put your aileron down, you create more lift on that wing, more drag, and it yaws to the outside of your turn. So if you want to roll left, it yaws to the right. The longer your wings are, the more of that force you have. So we say, if we sit in this airplane, you roll left, it wants to yaw right, so you go on the left rudder. You roll right, you go right rudder, you roll left, left rudder. Okay? Let's say we fly upside down, or we just add a seat on the bottom. Here. Okay? The controls are the same. Let's say these rudder pedals extend up and down. The stick extends up and down. So if it's one continuous stick and you put it to the left on the top, it also goes to the left on the bottom. But the rudders are different. Because if you look at this stall combination here, where Barbie has her right foot on the right pedal, what foot does Kent have on this right pedal? The left foot. Right? It's not that the controls reverse. You just sit on the other side of the airplane. It's the same pedal. It's the same pedal, but you're sitting in a mirror image. So there is this exercise called Dutch rolls where you go left wing, right wing, right wing, and you have to stay coordinated. So you go left stick, left rudder, right stick, right rudder. If you roll upside down, it's left stick, right rudder, and right stick, left rudder. Okay? Otherwise, you're cross-controlled. That can be dangerous if you are slow and close to a stall. Let's say we fly a Himmelmann, half loop up and half roll. We start at 160, half loop up. How slow are we? 45, very slow. We roll right side up, and then we're supposed to fly on and not lose altitude. So usually you start that a little faster, 170, you pull a little more, you're not quite 45, you're hopefully 60, 65. Which way do you want to roll, by the way, right or left? Left, because you want to go with the torque. It helps you. Torque helps you. But now you are upside down, and you're supposed to fly on a horizontal line. So now you're upside down, you roll left. Which rudder are you using to initiate that roll? Right rudder. So you roll left, right rudder. When you are knife edge, the nose wants to dip, the plane wants to dip the nose down. Now you have to switch over to the left rudder in knife edge. Now you are right side up. And you need to pull, otherwise it will really dive down. So you need to pull. Now you have a slow speed configuration. Right rudder. So the Himmelmann, half loop up, roll left, right foot, right foot. That's why it's a good idea to take aerobatic training before you attempt that, if you have never done this before. I've heard of people who buy themselves an aerobatic airplane. They say, I'm going to go out and try this. This can be dangerous. It can be dangerous, okay? And that Himmelmann, we call it the Himmel spin. It's a figure. It's an improved aerobatic figure. I'm just kidding, it's not, but people get into it a lot. Because if you do this wrong and you roll left and you start with the left foot, then it's cross-controlled. They spin quickly at that slow speed. Okay? In a looping, let me ask this. So you are pulling into that loop. You are 45 on the top. And assume you pulled 4 Gs and you have 45 over the top. Let's say you don't pull 4 Gs. You take your grandpa, and he has a pacemaker already. My dad has a pacemaker already. I would never fly a 4G loop with him. 2G, you can fly a 2G loop. It is somehow like this. It goes up very gently, very gently, very gently. You're right about here, and you have no more airspeed. So you finagle it in the stall around, make sure it doesn't go sideways, good rudder control, it comes back down. And for my dad, that would be a loop, because you go up, you see the ground, and you pull back out. And I said I'll stall it over the top. Let's say we stall it over the top. You pull, you say, okay, I'm not going to do this again. I pull more this time. Or they called your loops tall in competition. Who has been called tall on the loops in competition? Yeah, it's common, very common to fly a tall loop. So we pull more. We say, okay, we can fix that, we pull more. You pull, 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 the airplane stalls while you pull. Because you pull too much, it will stall, especially up there where you're slow. Let's say it spins right out of here. Do you get in a right side up or an inverted spin? Not for the aerobatic pilots, please. Non-aerobatic pilots, what do you think? You are on top of that loop, you pull too much, you stall the airplane, you don't do anything against it, now it's stalled. There's absolutely no directional stability anymore. And you have this gyroscopic precession stuff, you have prop wash, you have P-factor, all that good stuff. It wants to go sideways. It spins, but is it a right side up or an upside down spin? Could it even be an right side up spin out of inverted flight? Yes. Airplanes are designed, aerobatic airplanes for sure. If you have the stick all the way back, it's stalled with a positive angle of attack. So no matter which attitude you are, if you have the stick all the way back, let's say you are upside down on top of this loop, bring the stick all the way back. And we do this. It's called a crossover spin entry, or you can enter a right side up spin out of inverted flight or an upside down spin out of right side up flight. And all that matters is where is the stick on spin entry. If the stick is back and you keep it back and it starts spinning, even if it's upside down here, it will finagle its way around and spin right side up. You're in a right side up spin. If you are flying right side up, let's say you fly an outside loop, you're brave, roll it upside down, push, 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 your eyes come out, get very big, and you are here on top. Again, you're very slow, and you push harder to bring it back down, and the stick is all the way forward, and it stalls and it spins, and the stick is forward, it'll go around and enter a upside down spin. And now is this thing with the feet again. A left spin, right side up. Let's say Barbie is spinning right side up to the left. What rudder does she need? Right rudder. Ken is sitting down here. What rudder does he need? Left rudder. It's the same spin. If you are watching these spins, so a left right side up spin aerodynamically and from propeller forces is the same as a right inverted spin. It's the same spin. You just sit at different sides. And it is very important to look at the nose, down the nose of the airplane, the nose, okay? Or if you're sitting on the side in a Cessna, there's that rivet line that goes down. Look at the front of the rivet line. Focus on the metal of the nose of the airplane if you're spinning, okay? Who has never done a spin here? Okay, good. Power off, first thing. Rip the handle out, first thing. Okay, you need to get rid of that power, otherwise it will not stop. You can do everything else correctly. Then you're supposed to neutralize the ailerons. There's an explanation for that too, but just remember the ailerons have to be neutral, no sideways to stick. Then you go opposite rudder. The opposite rudder is opposing to the spin direction. And in a right side up spin, that's actually easy to see because you look over the nose anyway. But in an inverted spin, you need to force yourself to look over the nose because you can lift your head and look straight at the ground. And a lot of people do that because the ground is always comforting. We want to get safely to the ground. So when you are inverted and you look at the ground, you're actually looking across the spin axis and you see the opposite of what's going on. And you go on the wrong rudder and it will not come out. That happens often. A lot of these spin accidents, I think, have something to do with that. So it is very important in a spin recovery that you look down the nose, focus on the nose, do not look at the ground. The ground comes by very fast if it's a developed spin. Focus on the nose and you will see the ground in the background moving by like a screen that somebody pulls by. Where the ground comes from, that's the side you're spinning to. You want to go on the opposite rudder. And that works also inverted. Look at the nose. Okay? Look at the nose, go on the opposite rudder. There is an even easier way. I don't mean to bore you, we have a little time. Let me just put down the spin recovery sequence. Spin recovery. Number one, we said what? Power out, power out. Power has to be idle. If that power is not idle, it will, no matter what else you do, it will not do anything. You will not come out. 2, ailerons neutral, and that has to do with when they are deflected, they create more angle of attack or less on one side. And the reflex is when you are, let's say you're in a left spin for the, I went on my first, I got a single seat Pitts at the time, this is 30 years back or 35 years back, and you have to do your first spin. Well, I got into my first spin. It's not the spins you do purposely. You say, I'm going to spin now, and I'm going to stall it, and I spin left or right. That's all under control. But if you end up in a spin and you didn't plan on getting in it, that's a completely different ballgame. So you need to keep your brain cells together. Power off is the first thing. And if you do that right away, it's very docile. If you let it go spin a little bit, I let it go spin a little bit. It took me completely by surprise. And I went, the ground is coming from the left and I wanted to stop it with right stick. So I went opposite aileron. And it didn't come out, even though I added the rudder. I had the power off, I had the aileron opposite, and I went on the opposite rudder and it did not stop. The Pitts doesn't stop. It's beautiful. It's good teaching airplane. Because it increases the angle of attack on the descending wing, the wing it spins to. So it stalls even more. Think of it stalls even more. The other one, it decreases, that it maybe has a flying element. So it keeps it spinning happily, will not stop. So these ailerons have to be neutral. Three, we have opposite rudder. And that's what I wanted to say. If we have a nose of the airplane here, you look down the nose, maybe a rivet line or something. Look right here. Focus on this point on the nose. And you see the ground coming like this. And this works right side up as well as upside down. Where the ground comes from, that's here from the left. It's the side you're spinning to. You need to go on the opposite rudder. But you need to think about that. And in a panic situation, that might be too much. It took me forever to get out of my spin. At least it feels like that. Curtis Pitts, I met him in person. I lived in Florida for a while. He told me this trick. He said, step on the ground. And it's purely visual, has no thought involved. If you look at the picture of this, but you need to focus on the metal of the nose, or fiberglass, whatever it is. The ground, he says, catch the grounds. Catch the ground. The ground is coming from the left. You don't have to catch it. It's coming to you anyway. On this side, it's running away. Step on it, make it stop. So where the ground runs away, you step on that side, and it stops the spin. You need to practice that though. Practice that spin a few times. Try to get that visual with stepping on the ground. It works much faster than the ground comes from left. Left, what's the opposite of left? Do that in a panic. It's not that easy. Step on the ground, try to catch the ground and stop the ground. Works much faster. What's after the rudder? Elevator. How much? And which way? Depends on if you are in an inverted spin or right side up spin. If you are in a spin where initially you exceeded the angle of attack with the stick back, you need to go with the stick forward. If you are in an inverted spin, you need to go with the stick back. Okay? But sometimes it's hard to recognize which spin you are in, especially if you didn't plan to get in that spin. Okay? Neutral, go to neutral. Neutral is good. I should not just say that, I should say consult your POH. Consult your POH. I remember in the old Cessna manuals, it says controls full forward. If you, let's say you are in a left, right side up spin, and you recover, pull the power, ailerons neutral, right rudder, and you go full forward with the elevator. That's the Cessna method. I'm not sure if a Cessna will do that, but if you do that in a Pitts or any aerobatic airplane, they go, they spin left, and then they tuck under and keep spinning. And now you are in a right inverted spin because you're on the right foot, you're upside down, and you don't even notice what happens. Okay? It happens so quick, that's called a crossover spin. So beware of full deflections or consult your POH. So if it's a right side up spin, that thing is moving. Stick forward. Forward. I'm trying to not put my hand on this, otherwise it always does weird stuff. If it's an inverted spin, stick back. Number 5 and number 6. What's number 6 once it has recovered? Yeah, so what is the airspeed in a spin? 0. Kid you not. Is it over already? I got into stuff that wasn't even on the schedule, but I hope you are all enjoying it. Okay, 2 minutes. You're recovering from the spin. Airspeed 0. Look up, there are many videos you can watch and it shows the airspeed 0 because you're coming down like this, the airspeed is 0 in a spin. Now you recover it and it hangs like this. What's your airspeed, fast or slow? It's slow, it's very slow. It's increasing. If you don't do anything for 30 seconds, it will be very fast. But usually, let's say you have never done a spin, what do you do when you see the ground right in front of you? Pull. What happens? Stall. It will stall at 100 too. At 120, it's at 4 Gs, it stalls. In an emergency panic, we have superpowers. We can pull 10 Gs, easy, pull the wings off. So pull it out without stalling it. That's the last point. And the point before, not so much sure about a Cessna, but anything a little maneuverable than that. So let's say left spin was on, you are on the right rudder, the spin stops. And you are so happy it has stopped that you're frozen on this right rudder. What happens? Goes to the right. Goes to the right. So as soon as it has stopped, you need to let it go straight. Take your feet off the rudder. Okay? And then there is so we have 5 is, oh, come on. Neutralize rudders. When rotation has stopped. And 6 is pull out without stalling. For the ones who can read this, I give you great credit. 6 points. That's a lot of points to remember. If you've never been in a spin, or if it catches you and you're just totally overwhelmed, which can easily happen. There's an emergency method out there. The emergency spin recovery. Mike? Maybe he talks about that, but I'll mention it quickly. It has only 3 points. 3 points because we say in an emergency, even if the brain is reduced to 2%, we can still count to 3. So, emergency spin recovery, number 1, power off. It's always the same. Power off. Number 2, let go of the stick. Give yourself a scalp massage. You can do a lot wrong with that stick. You can go opposite the spin rotation. That will make it unrecoverable. And you can go full forward or full back and make a real mess. So let go of the stick. And number 3 is opposite rudder. Okay, these are the 3 points. Now, the let go of the stick, you need to try that if you have an airplane that can be spun. Some airplanes don't like that. The Pitts does it, the Extra does it. From the decathlon people, any decathlon people here? Does that recover with let go of the spin? Stick all the time. Okay, so you've made, I had reports that sometimes it doesn't. So you need to know your airplane if you do things like that. Many airplanes let go of the stick solves the problem. Opposite rudder will recover it in less than half turn. If you let go of everything and just manage to pull the power, it most likely will recover too. Just takes longer. The Pitts will take a turn and a quarter from a fully developed spin. Power off, take your hands off, take your feet off, it will come out. But it takes a little longer. So that's your plan, yeah, if you're on the wrong rudder. I think I have to quit because he's already looking around the corner there. Thank you for listening.